Hello there, YouTubers. How's it going for you guys today? This is CD Mangaka, and today I'm doing something a little bit different. For those of you who have been a subscriber of mine for a while, you guys know I've been working on a spawn trapping guide series, trying to show you how to spawn trap and ways to set up. And I generally do those by going to a private match and walking around a first-person perspective. But I'm going to try and change the way I present the spawn trapping guides so that you don't have to spend as much time watching a video and you can just get it out of the way quicker. I'm going to be emulating Tmartn here, kind of copying him, but please forgive me for that. But the way he presents things really works. So let's get started here. So you see these purple triangles on the screen, those are the flags in domination. The flag on the lower left is BeDom, the flag in the middle is BeDom, and the flag in the upper right corner is xDom. Now let's look at the enemy spawn. For xDom, the enemy basically spawns within that oval, and it's all in that back wasteland area, alright, but that's not important. What important is how they get out of their spawn, and these routes are basically the arrows of the direction in which the enemy is going, and when the path connects, that means it could go either direction. Now, we're going to look at these paths in detail, and we're going to start over on the left side of the map. So we just flipped a little bit of perspective here, but as you can see, the enemy can go through any of these ways when they're spawning to the right of the map, looking from their own C flag. There's the ways they can get into a BeDom building. We're going to call it BeDom building though, because I mean it generally hangs right over BeDom. And now we're going to shift to the left a little bit. This is going to be how the enemy routes could go if they're going into right through the middle of the map through that open bay door. They could go to the right, try and get into BeDamn building. They can go right under the BeDamn ledge, go straight up, hop on to B flag, or kind of branch it a little forward and even get into xDom building. The xDom building being on the left where C flag is the closest to. There's a little room down there that they could try and get into, but that's generally the routes they're going to be trying taking if I'm going through the middle door. And then these are the last few routes that they can actually do before right around C flag. As you can see, they can go up the middle, or they can climb up the stairway and get into xDom building, the office building, or they could take the open door on the far left of the map and try and flank around there. There's a couple entrances into xDom building from that area. But that's generally the way the enemy is going to try and get out of their spawn. And so now that we've taken a look at the enemy spawn routes, we're actually going to look at areas in which you want your guys to go. For each green square that you're going to see on the screen, that's basically a teammate and where there should be. As you can see, we got 3 guys in BeDom building and then 3 guys in xDom building. And each of these guys are going to be in control of a specific room and watching a specific area of the map. And if you hold these areas and maintain them, you actually get a pretty sizable spawn trap going on when the enemy's on C flag. Now let's zoom in. We're going to go to the left of the map again from this perspective and get a closer look. Now this is the first floor of BeDom building, okay? I'm just going to show you this picture so you can get the idea of where it is. On the left way you can see that slanted wall, that's the stairway that leads up into B ledge, but this is the interior of the area, and we're going to look at how the enemy can get into this area. Now there's actually 3 different doorways that the enemy can come into when they're spawning xDom and get into the first floor of BeDom building. One door you won't be concerned about because the guy on the ledge should take care of it, but the 2 main doors that you're going to have to be watching if you're guarding BeDom building first floor is this doorway right here that I'm looking at, and this doorway right here. Now this is going to be a bit more of a flank. It comes out right near the doorway that leads to BeDom building, but the enemy, they could use this. Now the third and less prevalent doorway that the enemy could come through is that doorway at the end that's next to BeDom truck. They'll generally do this to try and flank you and get up into BeDom ledge, or just flank you if you're on the first floor. But you won't have to worry about though if the rest of the team is doing their job. Now, as far as defending those 2 doorways, all you have to do is basically remember that the enemy can only go through one of those 2 doorways, and all you have to do is shuffle up your position and keep watching those doorways. I probably have a motion sensor on your flank, and then just have 2 guys kind of backing each other up and watching the doorway. But those are just the 2 spots. 3, if you think about it for a moment, that you actually have to watch. Your teammates are going to have to play with that and fiddle with it, but that's really all you need to do to kind of lock down that BeDom building. Now let's take a look at BeDamn Ledge. And for those of you that don't really know what I'm talking about, this is what I'm calling BeDamn Ledge. The truck is at the bottom of the screen, and this is the ledge that occasionally a lot of people will come up to. And if you want to control BeDom on either side of the map, this area is essential to hold down. Let's take a look at what we can do in the room. Now this area is really small, so you're going to have to deal with a lot of frag grenades, and you can poke out on the ledge and look into the middle of the map from the bay doors. But I wanted to point out this little window right here that's highlighted in red. You can look out this window and pick off guys who are kind of hovering around the base of the building. In case they're going for that little flank, you can look down and let the guys in the first floor know, hey, BeDom doorway, or guy going to BeDom. Well, I'd point out BeDom doorway, but just be sure to use that window. Now we're going to go over to BeDamn building, the right side of the map. This is the second floor of the office building. The red rectangle is generally the area. That's the stairway that the enemies are going to try and come up from. If you want to go up there and look at the window and try to pick enemies off, go right ahead. The green rectangle is to remind you that you can use this office room on the right to either put up a motion sensor or even to hide in there and shuffle up your spot and take out enemies who try and come through here. But this is going to be the second floor BeDamn defense. That's the areas you're going to want to look at. Now let's look at another little thing. That thing being this window right here, also on second floor, BeDamn building. It's just to the left of the doorway we're looking at. And basically, within this rectangle is a line of sight that you can use, so you can kind of poke out and just go back and forth between the two. And the red diamonds you see are where you're going to likely to see enemies. Some of them in the very back of their spawn, a guy going to the bay door, or a guy going around the wall next to BeDamn building. Now the next spot we're going to look at for defending BeDamn building is this lower office room right here. It's at the bottom of the stairway, and it's just basically right next to B flag. And this spot is a pretty good spot for defending B flag on either side of it. We're going to go inside the interior and give you an idea of what sightlines you should be using. This is the interior of the building, a little bad view, I understand, but basically what you want to do is look through the doorway for enemies and look through this little window on the right for enemies. When you're spawn trapping on BeDamn, I'd fade around a bit, throw a motion sensor somewhere, and be sure to call out enemies that you see that you can't pick up. But this area is a pretty good spot for defending BeDamn. After all, it's right in front of the flag. And finally, that last little doorway on the very side of the BeDamn building, that's basically the enemy is stuck in that alleyway, and so all you have to do is have a guy, the green pentagon as you see, on that little shack with a motion sensor somewhere, and he can basically keep that entire flank locked down for the entire game. Alright, now we're going to flip the script here real fast, and let's say the enemy has A flag, A being in the bottom left corner of the screen near the power station. This is where the enemy is going to be spawning, within the power station, and in the little buildings all over the bottom of the screen. And these arrows are, again, the routes and possible branches that they're going to be trying to take. And again, we're going to look at these routes in a little more detail, and again, where you should set up for them. Starting at the far left of the map, this is the enemy has to go through this doorway in order to get into the first floor of BeDamn building. It's just to, it's right next to BeDamn flag actually, and so this is one possible route the enemy could take. And now we're going to take a little look at the possible BeDamn routes the enemy could take. And as you can see, the enemy has a lot of flanking options here. They can go around on the bottom right corner of the screen, the little oil rigs. They can go around those, clip behind those. They got two cinder blocks in front of them they could clip from. They got the yellow garbage can they can clip from. They can go to the left side of the screen and by the Jeep, go either in front of it or behind it and flank from there. Or they can push straight to the BeDamn like a stupid reckless idiot, or try and get into BeDamn building first floor or BeDamn building first floor. Those are the routes that you could take. The diamonds on the screen are basically some areas where the enemy could try and take cover from and try to pick you off once they start realizing that you're getting set up. So be mindful of those spots and be sure to kill enemies using them. Here's another look at the flanks they can do. This is just to remind you guys that they're going to be trying to push into the first floor of BeDamn building in that room right there, or they can just go straight to BeDamn, cut around left. But this is just another view of that flank. And here's a picture of how the enemy could try and flank BeDamn building. They can go through that big doorway, or there's a smaller doorway on the far right side of the map. They go up the stairs or down by the shack. Just another view of it. If they go by the shack, they can go either around the back of the shack and try to flank all the way to BeDamn. That's the arrow farthest up on the screen. Or they could try and get into the bottom room of BeDamn building where it's right next to B flag. That way they can climb up the stairs. So that flank is a very powerful flank, and that's going to have to be watched, and we will watch it. And now we know what the enemy routes could be if they have BeDamn, you're spawn trapping there. We're basically going to set up in pretty much the same areas that we did for a BeDamn spawn trap, but instead, the only difference is the areas in which we're going to be watching. And so we're going to take a look at the areas that we're going to be watching. Now, again, the enemy is going to be going through this door by the power station. It's right next to BeDamn flag, but this makes controlling first floor of BeDamn a lot easier to do because the enemy only has one doorway in which they're most likely going to be entering from. They could also do the flank from the doorway by the BeDamn truck, but this is going to be the primary doorway right here. So having two guys watching this doorway is going to really lock the area down. Now we're going to shift over to BeDamn Ledge position. Basically, on the BeDamn Ledge, you don't have any window to look at, but you have this entire field of view. Again, the red diamonds are where you're probably going to see enemies, so keep an eye on those areas. Those are going to be tough. And now we're going to go up to second floor of BeDamn building again. Basically, it's also a little easier to watch this area. You only have one doorway to watch, and it's a pretty easy doorway to do. That's where the enemies are going to come up if they go up the stairs. If you want to, you can push up to the window. It's the smaller rectangle within that larger rectangle. You can push up the window and try to pick some guys off, but don't hang out there too long because it makes you a more viable target. Go out there, poke your head out, get a kill, run back, and wait for people to come up here. You also have another option. for helping guard the entryway. This is more or less a support for the guy who's again going to be on the shack near BeDom building. You can use this office window. You'll find this office. It's pretty easy to find. You can use this window. The red diamonds are where you're going to find people. The diamond that's right touching the rectangle is actually, there's a jump in the enemy. You could get right on that corner, and so you have to be careful of that in case the guy at shack gets killed. Now we're flashing back downstairs to first floor BeDom building. We're in that little room next to BeDom, and again, you're just going to have to use this window and look towards ADOM spawn and be a bit careful and watch out for nades again. One important thing to note though is that if the guy at shack goes down, you're going to have to turn around. There's a little doorway behind you that the enemy can come through that leads from shack. I showed it to you in that flank a little earlier. That doorway directly connects into this room. So if a guy in shack goes down, you're going to have to cover your flank real fast, turn around, and watch that doorway for a moment. But again, this room is a pretty powerful place to watch BeDom from, but be careful, nades aplenty. I'd probably run flat jacket if you're going to protect this room. And now the final little area is again the BeDom shack. Again, you're going to have a guy on the shack that's in the middle of the screen, and then basically you're going to be watching two areas: the little main doorway on the right where the enemy could come from to try and come up the stairs, or the little power building in front of you that has a little doorway there, and the enemy will spawn there occasionally. So you're going to have to watch those two doorways. It's going to get a little hectic for you, but you have an entire area to play with. So be smart, set up unfair fights as much as you can, and just rock this area and protect that flank. And if you go down, let your guys in BeDom building know that the shack has been compromised. And that, ladies and gentlemen, or mostly just gangsters I suppose, is going to conclude our spawn trapping guide on how to do it on grid using a bit more of a Tmartn style. I'm basically using Tmartn's way of presenting things because it makes things a little more fun, condenses the time, and it just makes things a little more comprehensible and understandable. I'm not trying to rip Tmartn off. Tmartn came up with a way of using graphs. My graphs are nowhere as good as his, but I'm hoping it gets the job done, and I'm hoping it works for you guys. Anyways, thank you for watching the spawn trapping guide. I hope you learned something. Let me know how I did, guys, in the comment section, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, like victory. Anyways, I'm going to be doing, if you guys liked how I did this spawn trapping guide, I'll plan on doing the rest of the spawn trapping guide series pretty much this way. Anyways, this is BeDamn Ledge. I'm signing out.